Greetings, friends, and thank you for being here with me. I want to talk about the INFJ Doorslam on this video. Oh man, so there's a lot of stuff out on the internet in regards to what the INFJ Doorslam is and what it's all about and how INFJs do it and all of these different things. So I want to kind of wade through that and just sort of stretch our logical muscles just a little bit and kind of think about that. I have a strong opinion on the INFJ Doorslam myself. I'll share it at some point, though I think it's going to become pretty clear what I think about it very quickly. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and do an intro, and then let's get to this topic. Here we go. The magical, mystical INFJ Doorslam. Something that if you look up Doorslam probably on the internet, you're going to see all sorts of stuff that's just INFJ Doorslam, this, that, the other, and all kinds of opinions and things about it, and some very in-depth discussion, tons of articles, and a lot of memes. A lot of memes. So let's approach this topic just with some general information, right? First of all, if you don't know what an INFJ is, please hit the link in the description. It's MBTI, 16 personalities, etc., etc. There's a test. You can read up about it. I'm very sorry, but you're going to be extraordinarily confused if you're looking up this video and you don't know what that is. And like, how would you be looking up this video anyway if you're not sure what door slam? Maybe you're looking for random door slamming videos. I mean, it's a little weird, but I'm not going to judge. So let's identify this. Think about the word door slam, right? It is a sudden, dramatic. Usually, you know, if you picture it, you see it in movies and in TV shows and stuff like that. When anybody's just walking out of a room and slamming a door, that is a very dramatic, and usually there's a temper involved. Something just happened. There's a lot of very intense feelings going on and all that kind of stuff. And it's that kind of seminal event, right? It's that thing where it's final. That's it. I'm out of this place, and wham goes the door, and then you're gone. Now, in terms of the INFJ Doorslam, first of all, it's called an INFJ Doorslam, which would indicate that as an INFJ, you have more of you are more likely to do this thing, right? Which is why it's called that. I mean, I think that's pretty logical, and that makes sense. What is a door slam in psychological terms, right? Not just the physical act of, but what are we actually talking about with this door slam thing? And so I would see this as a cold and calculated cutting out or annihilation of a person from your life. And by that, I mean not talking anymore, totally done, ripping up all of the pictures, burning everything that smells like the other person. You're talking about finality here. You're talking about you are donezo, done-dido, not happening anymore. This person's out of your good graces, never going to be back in, period. First thing I want you to ask yourself is, how many times have you done that to other people? How many times have you, by that dramatic definition, door slammed somebody? Do you do it left and right? If so, there's probably not that many people left in your life if you're just door slamming everybody, which makes absolutely no sense. So it's an important question to kind of keep in mind. How many times have you truly suddenly cut somebody out of your life? Because that's the door slam, right? That's the INFJ door slam. It's a slam of the door. It's not a gentle closing of the door over time and hoping nobody notices, the way I would leave a social function. For me, I can think of two events, one of which there was actually some legal stuff involved because this person was not stable and was in my life in more of a business capacity, and I had to go ahead and cut that person out. And then another of which was a toxic relationship. And in that case, yeah, I would say that would qualify as well, sort of, as a door slam. It was more of a quiet door slam, but it was still done, cut out, annihilated every trace of, etc. So we need to talk a little bit about your cognitive functions. And I'm going to list up all 8 of your cognitive functions. So your full stack, right? What I'm going to try to do, and hopefully it works, is shade these in order of how intense they are, or how prominent they are as a cognitive function you lean on, to the weaker ones. So if it is appearing brighter, it is a more focused, it's one of the ones that you lean on more. If it is not as bright, like your shadow functions down there, they're wicked, people. They really are. Those are not as prominent. So there's 2 that I want to highlight here, and it's 2 that I often talk about on these videos. First one is extraverted feeling. And yes, I'm listing this as extraverted, not extroverted. So, all right, quick aside. My boy Carl, who came up with all this stuff, right? Carl. He preferred extraverted because extra in Latin would mean outside. And that's the whole point, is it's outside of the self. Which begs the question, why wouldn't he say introverted, like intravenous or something like that? But he says intro. I'm not really sure. Extroverted makes sense because, like, you could be, if something is extracurricular, it is outside of what you normally do for curriculum. But introverted, I don't know. Now this is a little weird. Like, I'm not into the etymology, but I kind of feel like I'm in a spelling bee right now. Introvert. INTRAVERT. Introvert. Okay, so anyway, introverted and extroverted functions in your stack. And so extraverted feeling, that's the one that's pretty high up there, right underneath intuition, which is your primary cognitive function. Extraverted feeling is that harmony of outside people. It is the emotions and the emotional weight and the feelings of others. Which makes sense for INFJs because we are big time feelers and we're very empathic people. And so that really high means we are putting a premium on what we gather as far as that function goes. Introverted feeling, which is our self-worth, is lower on there. And that is how we feel about ourselves and our own kind of our own inner sense of self in a lot of ways, which is why I think more often than not, INFJs do have identity issues. We tend to float around in identities and really try to hone in on the thing that is actually naturally us. And it's a little bit more difficult to find out. That's just my take on it. Let's move along. Let me phrase this in terms of what I think about the INFJ Doorslam. I think it's garbage. I think it's trash. I don't believe it exists. And I really think it's one of those things that floats around on the internet that is essentially just kind of, I don't know, made up as an INFJ thing, just like our sixth sense and Jedi mind powers, which don't exist either. We have intuition. Like, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to get that out of the way. I am biased. Like, I just don't believe the Doorslam is a thing, but I'm going to explain to you why. And if you disagree with me, totally cool. Let's have a civil discussion in the comments about it and post up why you don't think it's a thing. But let me make my argument first and just give you something to consider. Please keep an open mind. The first thing is that cognitive function stack. Extraverted feeling is very high on our list. It is something that we place a priority on. Introverted feeling, our self-worth, is not. Now, how does this manifest in a relationship? We will often put others before ourselves. Their happiness and their satisfaction is more important to us a lot of times than our own, which is why we have such issues with self-care as INFJs. We just don't feel like it has that much weight as compared to the care of others and other people that are around us and are important to us. So let's see if this makes sense. Would you be the type of person to suddenly slam a door and cut somebody out of your life and annihilate everything about them if you put more weight on that person's emotions than your own? I don't believe that's the case. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I think as INFJs, we often get dragged into toxic relationships and linger and try to fix people for a long time and try to hang on to that person and all of those things. Even though we know it might be bad for ourselves, we're still doing that because that person's emotional health and that person's needs and wants are almost more of a priority than our own, at least in our heads, because of that stupid FI hanging out down there. So let me ask this question to you. Are you more likely, and be honest with yourself on this answer, are you more likely to let a relationship linger on, be honest, or realize that it's toxic, stand up for yourself, slam the door, and that's that? And I think most INFJs would say that they would linger and hang on to something because of that emotional bond that we feel, and we don't want that ripped away because we are putting a premium on it. So that's the first argument that I'm going to make to say that the door slam is not a thing. I've got a few others. The next one is that there is absolutely no data on this whatsoever. The only thing I found was from an article from Psychology Junkie, right? And Susan Storm runs that site. And she sent an email out to about 20,000 of her email subscribers. And these are people of all sorts of different MBTI types. And basically said, do you door slam? And how many times? And, is this a behavior that you have? And what she found was that INFJs were not the top responder on this. They are not the ones that did the door slamming. Now, obviously, this is not a scientific study. This is an email going out, but not much else exists on it. What she found out is that INFJs are no more or less likely to door slam somebody. And in fact, INTPs were the ones that were most likely to door slam somebody. But it's not called the INTP door slam, which is kind of weird. It's also a fact that if you've taken the MBTI course, that door slamming and this behavior from INFJs appears nowhere in that. It's not as part of the certification. My boy Carl himself did not talk about this. It was not ever a thing. So where did it come about? Much like the INFJ mind powers and Jedi mind tricks that people say that we have in memes, I just don't think it exists. One of my final points on this is something that I think should be very obvious to anybody. Door slamming, cutting somebody out of your life in any way, is something that you do to a toxic person. It's not something that you do to somebody that you got general, good value as a friend or as a relationship. It's not somebody that you care about that you're door slamming. This is somebody that's a toxic person that is overstepping their boundaries and you've had enough. That's not particular to any type. That's just a human thing. That's no wonder. I mean, people have to cut toxic people out of their lives all the time. Now, as INFJs, do we attract toxic people perhaps a little bit more than other types because we are such strong feelers? Okay, sure. I will concede that. You can make that argument, and I understand that. But just because we attract more of them does not mean we have more of a propensity to door slam than any other type. Now, where I think this does come from, or where I think there is something to this, is the fact that as INFJs, we will put up with a lot. And we want harmony so bad that we're typically afraid to rock the boat. We're the type that doesn't want to do that. We're the type that will walk on some eggshells around other people just not to upset them, because we don't want that conflict. And sure, a lot of people don't, but as strong feelers and empaths in particular, that harmony and that extraverted feeling, extra with an A, because Latin, that's really important to us. And it's something that we really hold in high regard. And so we will linger on with people crossing our borders and crossing our boundaries a little bit more, I think, than many others would. And what happens is we will become emotionally distant. That is a normal thing for an INFJ. Becoming emotionally distant is something where you realize that you are drained. And you realize that there is not the worth in that relationship that you thought there was. And so you will withdraw. And you withdraw inward. You're an I, after all. You withdraw into yourself. And there's less affection. There is less talking. There's less interest in all of those kinds of things. So I think INFJs may be more likely to ghost on a friend that you feel is toxic or doesn't give you a lot of value in two ways, whereas you may be pouring something into that. But to slam the door and that kind of dramatic, no, you're out, I'm done, this is my boundary, that's really tough for INFJs. We're not great at that. We're not great at setting boundaries. There's a whole video about that as well. So there are a few things at work here, and there is a little bit of a gray area to it. But for the most part, this quote-unquote INFJ door slam, I'm sorry, I just think it's straight up trash. I don't think it's a thing. I don't think it's going to be a thing. I think there's too much evidence to the contrary, and it's that sort of thing where you're taking a behavior and applying it to a group and saying, well, yeah, that group does this behavior, so it's their behavior. But no, that behavior can exist outside of anything. It's too general, right? Cutting somebody out of your life is too general to say it's an INFJ thing. And I would say that if you're going to disagree, right, which is totally cool, keep it civil down in the comments. I want to know what your thoughts are on this as far as like what cognitive functions, what mix in an INFJ would make them likely to have this dramatic door slam and be doing it more than anyone else, than any other type. I just don't think it has anything to do with the type. And I think the evidence to the contrary is weighted a little too heavy. That we are empaths, we are feelers, we hang on to relationships, we try to fix things, fix people, smooth everything over, and we're that type that gives. And maybe, sure, when we've had enough, there is a dramatic exit of some kind, but that's against a toxic person, and that's something that anybody and any type would do if they're healthy and they're sticking to their boundaries. So let me know, right? No fights in the comments. Let's just have a nice discussion about this. That is my thoughts on it, and I want to know what you are thinking. So please, pretty please, put it down there. Have you door slammed somebody? What was it like? Do you do it all the time? Are you just slamming doors everywhere? Like Monsters Incorporated, all those doors, you're just slamming one after the other or whatever. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it and for being here and part of this discussion, and I hope we can have a fruitful discussion in the comments about this as well. Stick around, please subscribe, hit the bell. Good things are happening here, lots of awesome stuff going on, and I will catch you on the next video.